Good morning.
Morning.
Can you tell me what Moore's Law is?
Well, I'm sure you can tell that law better than I do.
This is what we call a chop, a gongzhan, the company's seal. Companies in the US do not have...
A couple of, let's say, mafia members, gangsters, to storm the company in the middle of the night. That 1 million followers are yours.
It's like a double negative. First, the algorithm hates you, then your audience hates you too, because you start sucking. This brand called Finjani, they make dresses. This guy made around $3.2 million in revenue in 5 months with a 5-person team. This is not just me being defective or a traitor. This is me telling the US, you better catch the fuck up, okay? Good morning.
Morning.
Can you tell me what Moore's Law is?
Well, I'm sure you can tell that law better than I do. I'm sure this is a technical term.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm asking,
Okay.
and it has to do with Huawei. But Moore's Law essentially is the way the industry of chips and semiconductors has been advancing since their conception, essentially, is that the transistors half in size, so they will double their density and they will get smaller, so it just comes down to how much you can fit on a tiny little circuit board. And Huawei just came out with a paper that essentially disproves Moore's Law is not even a law, technically. It's more of a theory. Huawei, a few days ago, or it was 2 days before Donald Trump was in Beijing, they presented on a stage in Shanghai that they have come up with a new solution to advance chips and semiconductors.
Oh, that probably explained why Jensen Huang got scooped up in the Air Force One for the last, at the last minute.
That is, yeah, maybe that's a good point to connect. Yeah, so it is the Tau Scaling Law. Core idea is to stop making transistors smaller and reduce delay at every system level. So they are 3D vertical stacking, which bypasses the EUV machines that China doesn't need. And for background, these are lithography machines, and there's only one company in the world, in the Netherlands, that produces them. I don't know if you have seen this documentary, but it's like an hour long, and it goes through how they are made, and it's absolutely insane. Like how the chips are made. And China has been banned from importing these machines.
Yeah.
So that is why certain countries are of such demand right now.
Yep. I get a feeling that you got more excited even than I. Why is that?
I don't know. I think that prices will go down for everybody if this is the case. Essentially just said, we don't need you anymore, US. They told Washington, we don't care. They told China,
The FU note.
yeah, we are doing this. That's just on the surface. We're not scientists. We can't really prove this. So
That's true.
what was your initial reaction to hearing this news?
I mean, this is going to happen sooner or later, that's for sure. Because remember, China has been a manufacturing juggernaut for 2 decades, 3 decades already. For instance, every New Year, I will go to CES for the event, and about 90% of the products are actually made in China. And in one particular district, in Shenzhen, Huaqiang district. So this is going to happen. The reason I'm saying that is because when you are so close to the manufacturing base in China, it's just a matter of time for you to innovate something out of that manufacturing kind of base. Because last year, I had a talk with Walter Isaacson, the author of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, the 2 books, the 2 great biographies of the 2 most important entrepreneurs of our time. I asked him, what's the difference between Elon and Steve? He was basically telling me that, so Steve was more like a visionary, and he has all those great ideas about design, aesthetics, and all that. But Elon is more like a doer. He has his own factory, not just in Shanghai, China, but also in Texas. Remember that? There's a gigafactory in Texas. And he sleeps all the time in the factory to basically monitor the whole process, making sure that nothing goes wrong. the reason he can innovate in such a hardcore way is just because he is so close to the manufacturing source. He's not just sitting thousands of miles away and daydreaming about, the product and how can we innovate. You have to be there to innovate. You have to be on site to make those innovations happen. And I think, the same thing goes here in China, because Huawei and all those big tech companies here, they're so close to the manufacturing source and they know what's going on. Nothing can really stop them in that sense, because this is where you live and where you work, and you live and work with those machines. And so you will innovate. We've seen all kinds of innovations out of China for the past few years. That's a fact. And also, I think I mentioned this, there's an AI satellite company in Chengdu. The founder is a very good friend of mine. He told me in the very beginning that for this AI plus satellite vertical, there's nothing they can learn from other countries, like the US, Europe. This is a very isolated industry in the very beginning, nothing to learn from. And it was banned from the get-go. So they have to basically build everything by themselves. And they did. And actually, the harder you push and the more harsh you corner those players on the ground, to a certain extent, come back if they don't want to die, if they don't want to just go obsolete out of the market. They're just going to try everything they can.
They're going to adapt
with all of their resources and the power to basically bring themselves back to the table. And that's exactly what Huawei did and what US has been doing for the past few years, basically cornering Huawei into a situation where they have to do something by themselves with everything they got. Otherwise, it's going to be a big trouble for them. They've been manufacturing all kinds of stuff, and they all need chips, and they can't get those chips. What they do? They're going to just sit there and wait for their death? No, they're not going to do that. They're just only going to accelerate the whole process of it. So that's what's happening here and now.
This came out in China. Let's say there was a technological advancement like this in Texas. Because when it came out in China, immediately 60 tech stocks just surged. They hit their limits for the day, closing out. If this happens in Texas, in the US, is this taken more seriously, or does this have more impact, do you think? Because the US is still number one in this field. Is this more of a world-changing event in the US?
We'll see. But I think Texas is a lot better than California to some extent. Bureaucracy and
regulations.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. But since US is already number one, adding the icing on the cake or cherry on top might not make a huge difference when it comes to comparing to China, where they have nothing, and right now they have something to play with. I would only assume that this is going to be a game changer for this industry going forward.
Yeah. And we do maybe not have as much of a technologically groundbreaking news piece from the US, but we do have something significant where Andrej Karpathy has jumped ship from AI, leaving, that's 9 of the 11 OpenAI founders who have since left. And he joined Anthropic. And his job pretty much is to build a team, tells Claude to make itself better. And
that's true.
Anthropic just closed a $30 billion investing round with a valuation of $900 billion. And they are actually EBIT positive in Q1. They have made around $4.1 billion versus OpenAI with losses this year so far exceeding $14 billion. But I got a notification on my phone today saying that Codex is overtaking Claude. What are you going to spend your budget on? GPT or OpenAI subscription or an Anthropic subscription?
Oh, I'm just going to go with the platform with the most, I guess, cost efficiency as well as familiarities with the platform. In the past, I've been personally using OpenAI more, and I got all my memory, and the whole thing got contextualized in that platform. When I ask a question, it's not just a question by itself. It has all the context with that question so that I can get more accurate answer and the answers I want. So personally, I'm going to go to OpenAI. Anthropic has been stealing the thunder from OpenAI, basically surpassing them on a few milestones. To be honest with you, they took two totally different paths. So Anthropic went for enterprise, went for those big companies to basically gain massive amount of revenue. That's why they're taking over. That's why they're EBIT positive. Where OpenAI is more focused on the consumer side. Don't forget they got over 900 million users on that platform. I think this is just a difference between two roadmaps. One is enterprise roadmap. The other is, of course, consumer kind of platform. And they're all very good. I mean, the future looks bright and shine on both of them, on both roadmaps. You will see them compete with each other neck to neck and comparing with different metrics.
So from a leadership standpoint, you're telling me that this is not a bad sign, that 9 out of 11 founders leaving a company is fine and don't worry at all?
I don't know what's going on with OpenAI. Seems like they got all kinds of trouble on that. They just wrapped up the lawsuit with Elon just about 2 weeks ago. They lost Andrej to Anthropic. They're still very strong and very good. Actually, I paid a visit to OpenAI's office last week.
How was that?
It's a great place. The vibe was great. My true point is this: don't underestimate OpenAI. OpenAI has huge potential because it has massive amount of data when it comes to consumers, and we all have our memories in OpenAI system, and that's going to drive all kinds of innovations and applications. For instance, when you talk about commerce, in the future, there's a possibility that all the e-commerce will be kind of revolutionized in a way, because it might not be a human doing all kinds of decisions. It might be the agents. But when it comes to personal behavior and personal consumer-based decisions, OpenAI is, of course, much popular platform than Anthropic.
You got to take the accessibility into play where they are able to serve a larger market.
The ARPU for those regular consumers might not be that high compared to Anthropic's client base, but they have, again, I think, huge potential when it comes to all kinds of applications. Because remember, AI is not just about the revenue you are generating. It's about data. It's about model. And data, how can you get the data? From the consumers, from the users, from the right now it's 900 million users OpenAI has got.
These models or these companies are integrating memory into their own cloud servers so that it makes it harder for the user to switch out of it. Unless you design your own personal systems differently to make them more modular, but most people are not doing that. Personally, I have every AI subscription because I've noticed the compute is throttled day in and day out by each platform. I made a daily newsletter for myself saying exactly based on the technical data from each company per day, based on which models are throttling compute, getting stupider, getting smarter, so I know which model I can trust that day.
Which one you trust the most?
Opus 4.6, 1 million context. 4.7 got so stupid, in my opinion.
I got a sense that OpenAI or ChatGPT was basically trying to lure me to consume from each prompt I gave them and each answers they gave back to me, just basically telling me that, oh, this is the answer you want, but you know what? We can get a better answer for you. Would you like that? Of course I would hit
Here, give
yes.
me $5.
Exactly. It's basically like catfishing for tokens. I don't like that, to be honest with you. But I think right now, I've seen that less and less on ChatGPT. I think they made some improvement.
Yeah, let's go back to the leadership OpenAI is having and Claude is exhibiting. If 9 out of 11 founders left BrandPal, would you consider that a leadership problem or something else, a talent problem?
From my perspective, this is a people company fit problem. We've got all kinds of top talents for my first company and also this company. Whether that talent can match with your current development of the company. Because sometimes they're way ahead so that there's no match. Sometimes they're lagging behind and there's no match. And also it has something to do with their own personal kind of development as well, like whether they're married, whether they're busy, whether they're in some other adventures in their life. Let's just put it that way, so that they won't be 100% focused on this current venture we're having right now. It's ultimately a matchmaking problem. I don't think there's no right or wrong. I'm sure same goes with many other big tech companies as well. You want to match your own kind of personal development and stage with the company's stage. And more often than not, it's really hard to get that perfectly matched. So I wouldn't blame anybody, including myself, if that happens. I would just take that as a people company fit problem. On the other hand, we always look internally and see what's going on and what mistakes we made. But this is not a one-way street. This is mutually kind of relationship, and you cannot just make the call just on one side and see it through the end.
Well, some companies who are adopting AI are not having, or in an ideal world, would not be having any talent issues because all of the tasks can be done with AI. That brings us to Klarna and Pizza Hut. So these two companies are kind of disastrous examples of what happens when you adopt AI too early without the correct guardrails. Klarna fired 700 real agents and replaced them with AI to handle customer service, an OpenAI-based chatbot to handle customer service requests. And for 80-90% of these requests, it was fine. It was crushing it. But they did not take into consideration the niche emotional cases, the edge cases that you need to deal with when you are dealing with humans, and maybe some loyal customers or people that just have some niche problems with your service. The CEO bragged so much about it, cutting all these employees and then replacing them with AI, saying, this is a revolution, this is the future. And now he is slowly hiring back employees to deal with that 20% of edge cases where you cannot delegate to AI. And from this, I've concluded that AI cannot replace roles. It can replace tasks. Roles are completely different. If you were the CEO of Klarna, how would you have handled this differently?
I mean, first of all, I want to give him a huge shout out for being so bold and so bold enough to take that move, basically, because this is not something can be easily implemented. But for me, I would definitely be more cautious, because when it comes to customer service, the first question I would ask those, whether agent or human, would be, are you AI? If you're not, then I'm going to stop talking to you. Find me some, real human. Because first of all, I don't think I'm a high maintenance guy. I'm pretty much self-help, and I can solve all the problems all by myself, except for those problems that I cannot solve. So that I would go for those customer service agents or people. They just come back with some sort of chatbot, and that's not going to solve my problem, because I already know that my problem will be pretty complex. I think they adopt that, customer service agent in a pretty audacious way, a little bit over the top, I think, from my perspective. Because you want to have some guardrails and people in the process, guide the whole process, making sure nothing goes wrong. Otherwise, you're going to just get more complaints about the service experience you have.
As a CEO, though, isn't it hard to not be over the top when you have some new tech and you want to attract investment and attract talent? Like, how have you managed to not overpromise and underdeliver?
You just have to accept the fact that you will make mistakes and you are okay with it. And all the people around you, they're okay with it, the investors, the customers. There is margin for error. Let's just say it that way for your company to do this. If your company's on the edgy case, then you probably don't want to do it. Otherwise, you're going to get screwed up pretty bad. But overall, I think for this is the future. That's for sure. And we all know that. It's just a matter of time. But at this point, I do think that for real human like us, there's possibility and there's opportunity as well. What AI cannot replace is the capability to make the call. I said that multiple times. And the capability for making the call, actually, from a very total package you have, the experience you have, the mistakes you've learned, and your domain knowledge, your connection, and your perception, pretty much everything, so that you can make the call. But there's no guarantee that you're making the right call, but at least you are able to make the call. And I don't think AI at this point can do that. At least I don't think they can do that in the right way. So that you still have to have the human in the loop to make sure, nothing goes wrong, goes insanely wrong.
I think there's two types of ignorance, and it's not knowing something and then not knowing what you don't know.
Yep.
I want to take Pizza Hut as well, another pretty good example of a failure early on. But I think that this failure was very valuable for a lot of other companies that are going to be adopting AI, where they partnered with Dragon Tail and created this AI kitchen monitoring tracking system to increase efficiency. It did exactly what it was told. They did not account for the edge case of the humans gaming the system. This system that they had gave total transparency for all the delivery people into what pizzas were ready when and what their next orders would be. So the delivery people, they use this to their advantage, and instead of immediately going in the store, getting the pizza, delivering it to where it needed to go, they would wait until orders piled up in the same neighborhood and pizzas would get cold, and they would go and deliver them all at the same time. And their on-time delivery rates dropped from 90% to 50% because of that. Now there is a $100 million lawsuit going around because of the oversight that this has caused. But it goes to show, like, the AI did exactly what it was told to do. The people building it did not account for these cases where it could go wrong.
Yeah, I think you're onto something really important here. That's why for the company that similar to our operating model, which is Palantir, they've got this so-called forward deploy engineer, FDE. Basically, they just deploy their engineers to their clients' office or site, and then they customize the whole system with their clients and listening to their needs and demands and everything. We have something similar, FDE, but there's another E. It's a double E. It's forward deploy engineer / experts. And experts is really what matters here, because you have to know what's going on within this domain so that you can call out those loopholes like you just mentioned and prevent anything bad or malicious happening there, so that not just engineers but experts here are equally important. And you want to make sure that you're basically implementing the best practice in your industry with the top-notch domain knowledge so that nothing goes wrong, not just the technical side, but also on the operational and the business side as well.
I think any company deploying AI can use this model is you need at least 20% human in the loop, expert in the loop. You have 80% of these remedial recurring tasks being handled by AI. That's great, but you need the 20% who can make sure that they are being handled correctly. I think that's what we're going to see a lot going forward, the 80-20 division of labor. Okay, I want to switch gears now. Last week, you told me you were at the Plug and Play Summit, there were a bunch of enterprises looking for help, essentially. AI and tech is moving too fast for even them. And social commerce. I think you can group all of them together because that's the world we live in now. Kind of reverse pitching startups to help them move forward and, not fall behind with the emerging trends. The main one being social commerce. Would you think that TikTok, the social media app, revenue for 2026 is going to be greater than that of Target's entire e-commerce, a company that's been alive for, I don't even know. What did you hear from these companies that you did not expect to hear?
Yes, I did a visit to Plug and Play Summit. We were invited to present on stage and then got connected with a bunch of big enterprise potential clients, let's just say, from like Mars, Royal Caribbean, Saudi Airlines, and whatnot. It's interesting to see those big companies, they got interested in social marketing and social commerce in general, because this is apparently something new for them. And even for those big companies, they have to do this whole thing in a number kind of driven, number-based way. We just accumulate a number of followers on our social accounts and then be done with it. It's not like that, because they apparently feel that this is a paradigm shift for pretty much everybody. And whoever can catch on the trend can be the winner, basically. I'll give you a data point to compare. So in the US, social commerce, let's just talk about TikTok alone. So TikTok Shop. TikTok Shop back in 2024, 2 years ago, got about less than $12 billion in terms of GMV in that year. But it's already a 10 times growth from the previous year. And this year, we're looking at least 2 to 3 times growth in terms of GMV. Still, but it's pretty early compared to some other geolocations like China, where the social commerce concept actually originated in the first place back in 2020 and 2021-ish. Right now, in China, the social commerce GMV, or the GMV on Douyin alone, that's the Chinese version of TikTok, was about $600 billion per year. Where in the US, it's only like a fraction of that number. So that's why you see those big international corporations, because they've seen what's going on in China. And they know this is going to go popular in some other geolocations like US, like MENA region, like Europe, Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia has been growing very fast as well in the past few years. It's just a matter of time from their perspective. So they have to adopt it. They have to catch on the trend. It's just a matter of how and when. I think last year, when it comes to the question of when, a lot of the big companies, they've been a little bit hesitant and kind of in what we call the wait and see mode last year, because they've seen some uncertainties regarding TikTok's future last year. But this year is totally different, because we all know that TikTok has got this huge deal with the US government. So there's no uncertainty going forward. That's why I'm seeing those big international corporations, they're looking to this domain and they want to know how can they grow faster and in a more cost-efficient way. Because I know for a fact that in the past, they might not be that efficient when it comes to growth. Growth is the holy grail for everybody out there, no matter big or small. So this is something they have to tap into in the right way. Plus, AI is pretty much changing everything right now. I get that actually from one of our advisors. He was telling me that all those big Fortune 500 companies, VP of marketing, got the question from their board all the time that how can we leverage AI to boost our efficiency and cut down the cost? That's the universal question they got. And they have to find an answer. So that's why you've seen those big companies, they are interested in this whole thing. And they want to know what kind of innovative solutions out there that can help them ride on the trend, solve the problem. be at the next frontier of everything, social plus AI. In a nutshell, I think this is why platforms like Plug and Play plays a vital role in this, because they're essentially connecting the two parts, the two ends of the spectrum. One is those big established brands. The other spectrum are those disruptors, are those innovators. They're basically incubating their own idea, their own innovative solution, might at some point disrupt the whole market. They want to know what it is, and they want to be sometimes part of it, invest in them, or bring them into their own ecosystem so that they won't get left behind. That's why you've seen Plug and Play has been growing pretty fast for the past few years because of those, new paradigm shifts from many other domains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes me think about how Douyin, it's grown so fast and it's become so mobile native. And I think the reason the US didn't catch on for a while is because they're so used to using their phone and maybe seeing a product or something and then going right to their desktop, going to Amazon and typing it in on Amazon. That's how we grew up with that for so many years. Like they kind of just skipped the whole use your computer to go search something. Instead, just watch it on this live stream and buy it. I heard from one of the staff here, like just average influencers are totally out of their minds, charging like $500 to make a 30-second video. Not a huge following, nothing crazy. The US is seeing this. It's like you can make a video for $2 of AI, and you can make so many more of them. So I think that's going to take a while for China to let go of because they've built such a big infrastructure of these influencers and they all have huge followings. But the US, there are many influencers in the US, but it's not as sales native influencers. There are still so many, and they're making so much money. Like the Royal Caribbean, a cruise influencer is able to make like $350,000 a year these days. But I don't know how long that's going to last for. So I feel the US is kind of skipping over a lot of what the influencer marketing ecosystem would have been without AI. And they need to adjust. And that's why they need these tech companies.
Yeah, lucky enough, we have the time machine because we've been through the whole cycle in China like a few years back. So we know what's going to happen in the future. You're right. So right now, let's say 5 years ago in China, a lot of the influencers made huge amount of money out of those, campaigns and collaborations with all kinds of brands because that's where the money is. You collaborate with some mega influencers and they're going to deliver a huge number of sales number to you or to your brand, and that's mutually beneficial for both sides. So all those influencers and MCN, what we call MCN, a multi-channel network, they're making huge amount of money. But after, let's say, 3 to 4 years, influencers are not really making as much as they do in the past in China, even though they still got a huge following, huge audience base. They're not making as much as before because the whole thing, it's kind of time sensitive because eventually those brands, first of all, the number of influencers is only going to grow so that the competition is going to get much more worse for the influencers, So that as a brand, you don't have to go for those top 10 influencers. You can go with another 1,000 nano and medium-sized influencers to basically help you lower the cost and also achieving the same or even better results. Because remember, the whole platform is algorithm-driven. So no matter how many audience you have, the audience doesn't belong to you. Unlike those traditional social platforms, this is a key difference actually. So in China and on TikTok as well in the US, let's say you have 1 million followers, right? You would think that 1 million followers are yours and you can reach to them anytime you want. But the fact is, no. That 1 million followers you have belongs to TikTok, belongs to ByteDance, belongs to Douyin. If you still make great content, then the platform is going to reward you with more impression and the timely outreach to those audience you already have. But if you suck and making content all of a sudden, then the system is not going to reward you with more outreach or impression, even with your own audience base. So essentially, they're not yours.
It's like a double negative. First, the algorithm hates you, then your audience hates you too, because you start sucking.
Exactly. So even for the influencers, it's a performance-based kind of mechanism working and thriving on those platforms and surviving on those platforms. And if you're not as good, as before, then you're just gonna go out of the whole business, basically. Of course, that's very smart for the platform because they want to make sure their product is essentially the content. They want the best content out there from those influencers. They don't want those influencers to just relax and be kind of not that serious about those content creation process. If you're rich and have a huge amount of followers, then you tend to be kind of sloppy to some extent. They're not allowing that. And if you're not doing the right job, the system will let you know. That's what's exactly what happened in China. Those influencers, they got those audience-based and just do a mediocre job in terms of content creation. But no, the system is going to identify how you perform and give you the right feedback so that you're always incentivized or disencouraged. This whole thing is a feedback loop. As long as there's more supply on the influence side, the demand is only gonna go down. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened in China. And I could only assume that the same thing is gonna happen again, all over again in the US.
Yeah, I've never thought about it from the companies making the algorithms. I've always thought, the algorithm is the enemy. It's so freaking annoying to get to the top of it. The algorithm is their product. That is their edge. So that's why TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts are so important because they have the algorithms that show people what they specifically want to see. It also creates such a disconnect with reality when you're only seeing your algorithm.
Oh, yeah. You only see the things you want to see.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
It's like you have no idea what's going on with these other industries or other verticals or topics that maybe you're a little interested in, but there's a reason my algorithm only shows me AI stuff because I spend my eyes are on that the most, but I do still like fitness and whatever other stuff, music and stuff.
Basically tells you that if you're surrounded by the information only you want, then it's only going to reinforce your perception on those things. You will never go outside of your comfort zone and outside the current information loop so that perceptually you're disabled to some extent.
Yeah. Here's a business idea. Let me rent your algorithm for a day.
And what for?
To see the other side.
Oh, okay. Good idea.
Or anyone's, yeah. Give me some insight I don't have time to just like posts just go find posts that I might like. I don't know.
I guess here's a piece of advice for the influencers. So the gold rush still is there, but it's going to end soon. So be quick about it and be hardworking about it. Stand out before the gold rush ends.
Yeah. I want to talk about another gold rush, the AI race between the US, China, and the rest of the world. So back when Biden was in office, this was October 2023, it required frontier AI models to kind of be tested by the government. The Biden administration created an order that required frontier AI models to be tested by the government before their release. This kind of was brought forward. It was modified a bit by the Trump administration, and on May 20 or 21st, it was supposed to be signed. It was all set. That morning, David Sachs, the AI czar from the White House, called President Trump and essentially talked him out of it. This executive order would have required frontier models to be tested from 14 to 90 days by federal agencies to ensure they're safe, ensure they're okay to use. This was just pulled. Do you think that was the move? Do you think that was the right move?
From what perspective? A competition perspective or American first perspective?
I don't want a hacker to find all my credit card information perspective.
Oh, safety then. This is fundamentally demonstrated the difference between China and the US when it comes to regulation. I think US, the policymakers or administrators,
They're scared.
I mean, there are a bunch of lawyers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Where China, you got all those engineers who are actually leading the country right now. They're both pros and cons, the two systems we have. But when it comes to AI, something that is so new, so disrupting, so innovative, I think you got to handle with care, for sure. I'll give you an example, actually. Back 10 years ago, there was a new thing called internet finance in China. I don't know if you heard of it or not. That includes basically Alipay and many other kind of peer-to-peer lending online solutions in China. And it was developing very fast in China. Why? Because the Chinese government hadn't put any regulation on those companies, on those so-called innovative solutions at that time. I think back in 2013 to 15. So they just somehow let the bullet fly for a while and see what happens. Didn't put any regulation or any restriction on those companies. But there are all kinds of shenanigans. A lot of bad consequences happened because there's no regulation back then. But still, the Chinese so-called internet finance has developed so advanced. That's why you've seen all those online payment infrastructure got so popular in China, and it's really kind of easy to use. You don't have to bring cash. You can lend the money online with just a few clicks. And imagine that in the US. How can you just hit some buttons and get the money from the online lender on that capacity? There's no way you can do it. Mm-hmm. But in China, the whole infrastructure and the whole system got so advanced because of the flops and success happening in that internet finance so-called vertical. But US actually had the same thing 10 years ago. They got what's equivalent to internet finance that is called fintech. But for any fintech company, they face the same regulation as those big banks in the US. So there's no room for them to innovate. Of course, there's no much room for error as well. They will not make any mistakes because of that. But there's no innovation as well. So that's why you've seen why the US banking system is so shitty to some extent. For Chinese, it's really hard to imagine that you want to transfer money, you want to wire money, it's going to take you 1 to 3 days to complete the whole process. In China, it's like a snap a second. It's like an instant wire transfer and everything. And you don't really have to go through the whole process. In the US, I only see that from Cash App, from Zelle, and what other solutions we have. I think that's why there are so many blockchain companies. They want to just leverage, the Bitcoin, those digital currencies to complete a transaction.
That came to mind when you were talking about examples from the US that lacked regulation. Crypto was huge. Yep. So many people like Samuel Bankman-Fried and all these other people just doing insane rug pulls. Because of the lack of regulation, it led consumers to lose a lot of faith in the actual viable options that we have for cryptocurrency. I was a huge proponent of it. And then all these shit coins started popping up. What were the images the NFTs started going around, a bunch of BS. And now Bitcoin's still up, but it's a little more questionable on the future. That's just an example I found from the US. But China has these regulations in place for AI, and they're still able to produce models that are not yet frontier. We'll see what happens with their Huawei's new graphics cards. But they're still successful, and they're still able to produce these models for a fraction of the cost. I think the thing that makes it so competitive is the exponential curve that will happen. Like, AGI is coming. It's pretty much just about who can get there first and how much of a lead they can secure on anyone else before they get there. That's why the US is so concerned to the point where they are throwing the regulations in the trash or throwing these sting regulations and necessities in the trash because they are so concerned with achieving that exponential technology shift. We'll take Mythos. This was pretty much the model that brought this to everyone's attention.
Yep, the model.
Yeah. And we still don't have access to it. Our companies are not big enough yet. But the companies that produce the backbone of the internet did get access to it. And for example, a 17-year-old vulnerability in one open source software that half the internet is built on. It really concerns me if this gets put in the wrong hands. But on the other hand, you have enabling people to use these AIs that are experts in certain fields, like you've talked about. They're making discoveries that the creators of the models cannot make. Mm-hmm. It's really a tough line to stand on. I can only imagine that Huawei's, their new technological breakthrough, the Tau Scaling Law, had some influence on the phone call David Sachs and Donald Trump had together that morning.
Back to the point you mentioned about crypto, when you start something new, there are always going to be scammers plus innovators. Sometimes even the innovators, they seem to be the scammers in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And later on, when they prove themselves or prove the concept, then they became the innovators. Same goes with Jack Ma and some other very famous entrepreneurs in China as well. Jack Ma in the very beginning was deemed as a scammer to some extent. But later on, he just proved himself, and as well as Alibaba, as a great success. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna always happen when it comes to innovation. Of course, back to regulation on AI. I think China has been doing this so-called controlled acceleration when compared to the U.S. U.S. is more like a free market where you start something and then you just go with it. And either you have the regulation or not. But in China, the government is not going to allow any vertical or industry to go for a long time without any regulation. That's for sure. And they're going to do it in a collective way rather than just relying on one or two companies in this domain. They would basically talk to all the players in the same domain and then determine which is the right direction to go. And when that's finalized, they just go all in. Any pullback or hesitation, like I said previously, they tend to nurture and incubate the industry champions with everything they got, all the resources, the funding, talents, and everything. So China has been good at that. And I could only assume that AI, the most important vertical right now, globally, China has been deploying the same strategy. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going on with US with the back and forth on the regulation, the EOs and everything. But China has been pretty not so distracted and pretty determined on what exactly they're doing right now on that frontier model, but only a few months behind US frontier models. And also we have Huawei making all kinds of advanced chips. And on the data side, China has a huge amount of data as well. It's a pretty nasty competition, that's for sure. And I don't know who's going to win or if there is such a concept of winning at all. You don't want to make one country with everything they got in one certain vertical, let's say AI. It's going to be really bad for the rest of the world. Either US or China alone got the most advanced AI capacity, be that chips, models, or data. Checks and balance in power on that front. Otherwise, that one country can do whatever they want to the rest of the world, which is not going to be looking good.
The growth playbook I want to talk about this week, it's essentially just farm to table of OEM factory suppliers realizing that there is this superpower that is called TikTok Shop. This brand called Finjani, they make dresses. The owner of the factory realized in 2023 that you can just go right on TikTok and see the live feedback from the customers and the people do their market research. So this brand Finjani, they make dresses. The factory owner found out when selling in China, They only needed like 4 colors to serve the market. That's just based, the Chinese women's preferences. But expanding on TikTok Shop to the US, he realized adding more colors, targeting them, it opened up a world of change in his factory. He no longer needed middlemen and agencies. He had a direct communication vessel with his target market and the people buying these. And being a factory owner, you can iterate designs in a day. So within the same week, this factory is able to push out different designs and updated designs to just steamroll anyone else in the market. This guy made around $3.2 million in revenue in 5 months with a 5-person team. That is exactly why the US banned regulated exports so much and required, what did you call it? The shipping to Southeast Asia first and then shipping to the US.
Washing?
Yeah, that is exactly why the US required this washing to happen in the industry, because there's no chance US companies can keep up with this. They do not have the infrastructure. Have you been to Dongguan? This is like the capital of textiles in China, and it's near Hong Kong, right? Or Guangzhou.
But yeah, in all seriousness, we think there's a huge opportunity for the Chinese factory here to go abroad, basically, to sell their products globally. And in the past, there's no such opportunity for those manufacturers in China because you always have those so-called middlemen or the brands in the local market overseas. They are the end users to those factories because they purchase the products from those. They place the order and purchase the product from those manufacturers, and then they distribute them with their own logo and brands on them. And that's what's been going on for the past, let's say, 2 decades. But I think up until 10 years ago, there is another paradigm shift for those manufacturers in China, because for those who really have the balls to do this, to pull this off, they see opportunity, which is that the whole social platform has been pretty popular to the audience, to the end consumers, overseas market, like US. In the past, you don't have those Facebook, you don't have Twitter, you don't have all those social platforms, so that you cannot, there's no way for you to directly reach out to those audience and consumers, so that you have to go through the middleman. You have to go through those brands and let them make the purchase, place the order and everything. But all of a sudden, with all those rise of the social platforms, you can directly reach out to the end users, and you will know what they like and their preference and their consumer habits and behaviors, so that you can iterate on that and you can take advantage of that and then basically build up your own brand.
And now the end user can see directly how this product is being made. There's so many live streams that are happening on
and
the
also
floors
cheaper because you cut off the middleman.
Of course, yeah. If you own the supply chain, you own the factory, all you have to deal with is tariffs.
That's exactly true. And also, there are millions of factories here in China. They have all kinds of capacities, either high-end products or low-end products or middle-end product, whatever. They just got them all. They can easily penetrate any market, any kind of customer base they want to penetrate in any geolocations in the world, if they are really kind of up to it.
Yeah, they just need the localization insight. But if they can iterate on designs and they can implement feedback, they are
exactly
already 10 steps ahead of any local brand.
So that's why AI has been playing a bigger role in this as well, because in the past, it has to have a native speaker like you to help them on the iterations and localization. But right now with AI, that AI is the native speaker on their team and can help them with everything they want when it comes to go-to-market strategy and everything. That's one of the solutions we have. Sometimes it's manufacturers plus brands, so that we can help them on their go-to-market strategy, localization, and everything overseas market.
Any of these brands able to iterate on a design in a week?
Iterate design on a week?
In 1 week, can they change a design and get it to...
That can be easily done.
Really?
Yeah, it's Shein has been pretty aggressive in terms of market penetration globally.
Fast fashion.
Yeah, fast fashion. One of the strongest suits for Shein is that they have this in Chinese called 小单快饭. It's a model they invented. Basically, they just A/B testing different SKUs on their platform. They have, let's say, they place 100 orders on one SKU and test it out on the market. And if they identify the winners, they will double down. They'll just up-level the production of that SKU and then sell it. They're going to drive those losers out of the market so that they can always run this A/B testing on different SKUs. That's why they're having huge number of SKUs on their platform. And the only reason they can pull this off is that the manufacturing capacity to get it done within just 3 days. Change the color, iterate within just less than a week, let's just say, and get that in front of the consumers.
Yeah.
So that it's called fast fashion for a reason. It's really, really lightning fast.
Yeah.
Like Flash.
I want to move on to something that kind of surprised me when I arrived in Chengdu in China and I set up my company. So I have this. This is what we call a chop, a gongzhan, the company's seal. Companies in the US do not have this. They just have a signature, which can be easily detected as being false. But this thing has more power than you, essentially.
Yes. If you have that, the company chop, or what we call gongzhang in China, you basically gain control of everything for that company. A few years ago, very famous publicly listed company in China, they got into some internal conflicts between the two co-founders. Of course, they were couples in the beginning, and then they got divorced. So that there was a huge fight between the two co-founders. Instead of trying to get control of the company and the internal kind of human resource efforts, they fought for this in a pretty nasty way. It was all over the news, actually, back then. So one party just brought a couple of, let's say, mafia members, gangsters, to storm the company in the middle of the night and basically broke the drawer and get that out so that they took control of the company. And they just stormed out after they got that thing.
Wow.
And then later on declare they got the control of the company, which is true because they have that. So that, whatever company structure they have in place, doesn't matter. They have that, they can do whatever they want. And there's a series of company chops, actually, not just gongzhang. There's company chop in finance, where you basically use that to do all kinds of decisions in terms of financing as well as corporate finance. And also, there's another one called 法人章, which is basically the signatory chop for benefactor of the company. There's one guy in China's context. There's one ultimate guy who's going to take responsibilities of everything for that company, either good or bad. So you have to have one person and one signature.
A legal representative.
Yeah, a legal representative. That's the guy. So let's say the company go bankrupt. That guy will be affected and influenced by that as well.
How?
You have to take certain financial responsibilities of those out of that bankruptcy if you're the legal representative of that company.
Worst case scenario for that legal representative, though.
They're gonna just seize your assets to offset the debt you own on a company's capacity.
What if those assets are in another country?
Oh, then you became what we call Lalai.
What is Lalai?
So Lalai is basically a list of people who basically default on the credit system in China, so that you got certain restrictions and limitations when it comes to certain things. For instance, if you're a Lalai, if you're blacklisted as a man or a woman who default in the credit system in China, you cannot live and stay in a 5-star hotel in China. You cannot take airplanes. You cannot take what we call the high-speed rail train in China, the bullet train in China, and all the good benefits as a good citizen, you will just lose them all. And if you have your kids cannot go to those good schools because you're a Lalai, you're blacklisted basically.
Yeah.
So you better be careful with that.
So don't lose this. Don't become Lalai. Good lessons to learn, and hope it never happens to me in China.
There are a lot of Lalais actually in China because company and business, they rise and fall in mysterious ways. So you can't really predict what's going to happen. So to operate a business in China, you want to first protect your downside, protect the baseline, and then think about how can you scale the business.
So to wrap things up, I just want to ask you what we've talked about today. What do you think here looks bad but feels good?
I don't know. You tell me.
One thing I could come up with is from the US, we're never going to see China in a positive light, really, on the mainstream news broadcast. So what might look like China thinks they solved Moore's Law, and while they may have been hyping it up more than it may actually be, it is a very patriotic type of feeling to have a vision of having an edge on an industry you have been blacklisted from since its conception. For a Chinese nationalistic perspective, it is pretty good feeling.
I think there is also a paradigm shift in terms of the thinking here for a lot of the Chinese people when it comes to the US. It's not just make the China as the villain of the world. For a while, Chinese media, they've been doing the same thing, pretty much. I think on the average people's level, the average Joe's level, I think the whole kind of US has been always in the top scenario, or US has been always in the top kind of thinking has changed. For instance, I'll give you 2 examples. One is more personal, one is more industry kind of example. I have a friend who is actually one of the officials from UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and he's got a daughter, and that daughter never had a thought about US is leading China. From her perspective, it's China always leading the US. That is fascinating to me because I always think that US is leading China on many other fronts.
You got to think about the time period they're growing up in versus the one you grew up in.
Exactly. So that's where China has been growing pretty fast. Chinese government has been learning from the Wall Street for a while now in terms of financial system. But I think 5 or 6 years ago, even more than that, some very high-ranking officials from China, they invited a bunch of Wall Street top professionals to China to listen to them, basically, to learn from them. But in the end, he basically told those people that your experience is valuable, but it's not going to guide us on our own path. So basically, it's a FU note.
Feels like what just happened in Beijing, too.
Oh, yeah.
For those who have actually, in the younger generation or older generation, those who have been to both sides and see it, it is pretty clear which side is more on the up and up. And this is not just me being defective or a traitor. This is me telling the US, you better catch the fuck up, okay?
Well said. Well said.
Well, that is all we got. We can always learn.
And not stealing from the other side, but learn from the other side. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.